John Harbaugh's track record with quarterbacks has always been his signature. From elevating Joe Flacco to engineering a system around Lamar Jackson's unique skill set, his ability to mold talent into production is unmatched. Now, with Shedeur Sanders positioned as Cleveland's potential centerpiece, Harbaugh may be the only coach available with the credibility and experience to guide such a pivotal transition. The Browns know this, and Haslam'S rumored $200 million offer makes clear just how serious they are about securing that rare coach-QB synergy.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
It's a calculated gamble, but one built on a proven blueprint seen in every modern NFL dynasty. What makes this moment even more urgent is how much rides on the decision. Harbaugh isn't just a free agent. He's the kind of figure who can anchor a franchise and dictate its trajectory for the next decade. For a team that struggled to find cohesion at the top, installing a season winner with local ties isn't just smart. It's the bold, foundational move fans have waited years to see. Cleveland must act now to seize the one combination that could finally deliver both stability and success. The NFL does not often hand teams a moment like this. One decision, one separation, and suddenly the entire league tilts. When the Baltimore Ravens moved on from John Harbaugh, it didn't just create a vacancy. It created a shockwave. A Super Bowl-winning head coach. Nearly 2 decades of stability. A resume built on consistency, toughness, and winning seasons. Coaches like that don't hit the open market. They just don't. Harbaugh's track record speaks plainly. A Super Bowl title. A career record well above .600. Multiple playoff runs across different eras, different quarterbacks, different roster builds. He didn't need perfect circumstances to win. He built systems that survived injuries, transitions, and expectations. That kind of reliability is rare in a league that chews through head coaches every 2 or 3 years. Now Harbaugh is available, and the league understands exactly what that means. This isn't about recycling assistants or hoping the next hot coordinator figures it out. This is about a proven leader with a blueprint suddenly standing at the door. And the Cleveland Browns are staring directly at that door. Cleveland's situation makes the moment heavier. This is not a team searching for relevance. It's a team searching for direction. The Browns have talent, but the results have never matched the investment. Seasons swing between hope and disappointment. Promising stretches collapse under pressure. The roster looks competitive on paper, yet the franchise still feels stuck in neutral. That frustration has defined Browns football for decades. New regimes promise stability. New quarterbacks promise answers. And yet the cycle keeps repeating. Wins come in bursts, not in patterns. Momentum never sticks. The gap between potential and reality keeps widening. That's why the timing of Harbaugh's availability matters so much. Cleveland doesn't need another experiment. It needs structure. It needs someone who has already navigated the chaos of a demanding division and come out with banners instead of excuses. The Browns are no longer rebuilding from nothing. They're trying to turn something unstable into something sustainable. This is where Jimmy Haslam enters the story. And this is where the tone shifts. The Browns owner is no stranger to aggressive decisions. He's shown a willingness to spend, to push boundaries, to absorb criticism if he believes it moves the franchise closer to winning. That reputation is now fueling one of the biggest rumors the NFL has seen in years. Reports suggest Haslam is prepared to make a historic offer. Not just competitive, not just market-setting. Potentially up to $200 million for John Harbaugh. That number isn't about salary alone. It's about intent. It's about declaring that Cleveland is done flirting with caution. A contract like that would instantly become the most expensive coaching deal in NFL history. It would also send a message to the rest of the league that the Browns are no longer operating with hesitation. If they want Harbaugh, they're willing to pay whatever it takes to make sure no one else gets him. This decision isn't happening in a vacuum. It's tied directly to how Cleveland views its future. Ownership and the front office are staring at a crossroads. Do they continue managing risk, or do they commit fully to a vision? Harbaugh represents certainty in a league built on uncertainty. The comparison keeps coming back to past bold moves. When Cleveland wanted a franchise quarterback, they didn't hesitate. They didn't wait for consensus approval. They acted decisively. That same urgency is now being demanded in this moment. Harbaugh won't wait forever. Other teams are watching. Other owners are making calls. For Haslam, this is about more than football operations. It's about legacy. It's about answering a fan base that has waited generations for a championship run that feels real, not borrowed or temporary. Passing on Harbaugh would be a decision that echoes for years. Securing him would rewrite expectations overnight. At the center of this potential shift is the quarterback question, and more specifically, Shedeur Sanders. Cleveland's interest in Sanders is not a side plot. It's the core of the strategy. A young quarterback with talent, confidence, and upside needs the right environment to succeed. History shows that pairing matters. Harbaugh's resume with quarterbacks makes this pairing logical. He won with Joe Flacco. He reshaped his offense to unlock Lamar Jackson. He adapted rather than forcing players into rigid systems. That flexibility is what makes the idea of Harbaugh coaching Sanders so compelling. The league has shown this formula works. A proven coach and a young quarterback can change everything. It's not just about wins. It's about development, trust, and accountability. Cleveland sees Sanders as a potential franchise cornerstone. Harbaugh is viewed as the coach who could make that potential real. For Sanders, this situation represents opportunity and pressure at the same time. Being developed under a Super Bowl winning head coach changes expectations immediately. It removes excuses. It accelerates growth. The message becomes clear. You're not here to survive. You're here to lead. This is why Cleveland's plan hinges on alignment. Draft capital, roster moves, coaching philosophy. All of it has to point in the same direction. A young quarterback cannot be developed in chaos. Harbaugh's presence would bring structure, discipline, and clarity from day one. The Browns understand that quarterbacks fail more often than they succeed when organizations hesitate. This isn't about patience without direction. It's about intentional development under someone who has done it before on the biggest stages. Any conversation about a coaching change also brings uncomfortable realities. Kevin Stefanski's role becomes part of the discussion whether people want it to or not. The Browns are not just evaluating talent on the field. They're evaluating leadership at the top. This isn't personal. It's professional. The NFL is ruthless about windows. When an elite option becomes available, teams are judged by whether they act. The Browns have to decide if continuity is more valuable than opportunity. Harbaugh represents a different tier. That's the hard truth. When a coach with his resume is available, comparisons become unavoidable. Cleveland's leadership knows that standing still in this moment could be interpreted as settling. There's also the symbolism that makes this situation impossible to ignore. Harbaugh spent years on the opposing sideline. He knows the Browns. He knows the division. He knows exactly what Cleveland has struggled to become. Bringing him across that rivalry line would feel seismic. For Browns fans, it would signal a break from the past. No more hoping the rest of the division slips. No more waiting for someone else to stumble. It would be a declaration that Cleveland intends to lead, not chase. This is the moment. A proven coach, a willing owner, a potential franchise quarterback. Opportunities like this don't come with guarantees, but they come with clarity. The Browns can either lean into it or watch someone else do it first. If you're still here, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest power moves and turning points across the NFL. Shedeur Sanders hasn't even played it down in Cleveland, and yet the expectations are already mounting. If the Browns go all in on pairing him with Harbaugh, he won't just be a rookie quarterback. He'll be the face of a new chapter. The tone will shift from cautious optimism to outright demand. That's what happens when you're dropped into a franchise starved for leadership and results. Every press conference, every post-game interview, every misstep will be magnified. But so will every flash of brilliance. That's the gamble. The Browns don't want incremental improvement. They want a breakthrough. And bringing in Harbaugh means Sanders wouldn't be asked to carry the entire rebuild on his shoulders. He'd have a framework, a voice in his ear who's been there before, and a playbook designed around his strengths. The most successful quarterback-coach duos in recent history didn't just work because of talent. They worked because there was trust, alignment, and stability. Cleveland has never truly had that combination at the right time. Until now, maybe. Jimmy Haslam has seen what losing does to a fan base. He's watched First Energy Stadium empty out in the third quarter. He's heard the chants, the boos, the silence. He knows this isn't just about wins, it's about credibility. And right now, he has a chance to do something no Browns owner has done in decades: create belief. The idea of offering $200 million to a coach sounds outrageous on paper. But in context, it's strategic. The Browns have spent that kind of money on players who never turned the needle. At least with Harbaugh, the investment is tied directly to leadership and transformation. This isn't a locker room move. It's a cultural shift. Haslam understands how rare this alignment is. Harbaugh's availability, a potential franchise quarterback in Sanders, a restless fan base begging for direction. These moments do not come around often. And if you let them slip, you don't get them back. That's what makes this decision bigger than football operations. It's about changing the trajectory of the entire. There's a certain poetry in the idea of Sanders making his starting debut in a Browns versus Ravens game. That's the same rivalry Harbaugh lived for. The same stage he dominated from the other sideline. And now, he could be stepping into it with a quarterback who represents Cleveland's future, not its frustration. A matchup like that wouldn't just be another game. It would be a measuring stick, a statement. It would be a moment where Browns fans could finally feel like they had the advantage, not just the hope. Because under Harbaugh, the Ravens weren't just tough, they were smart. They didn't beat themselves. They showed up with an identity week after week. If the Browns can replicate that formula with Sanders under center, then the weight of the past might finally start to lift. That's what this is really about, resetting a narrative that has kept the franchise boxed in for far too long. Kevin Stefanski's connection to Shedeur Sanders is worth discussing because the reality is he may never get the chance to work with him. If Harbaugh comes in, the reset will be total. Staff changes, new playbooks, new philosophies. That's the cost of leveling up. And that's where things get complicated. Stefanski hasn't been a failure. He's delivered competitive seasons, won Coach of the Year, and guided the team through adversity. But in the NFL, timing is everything. And if you're not the right coach for the moment, the accolades don't matter. The decision becomes binary. If Cleveland believes Sanders is the future, then they need the best possible infrastructure around him. If Harbaugh is available and willing, you make the change. You don't hesitate. Because the worst thing the Browns could do now is split the difference. Keep one foot in the past while pretending to embrace the future. All it takes is one preseason game for the noise to start. A couple of throws, a flash of mobility, a calm pocket presence, and suddenly, the media cycle explodes. Shedeur Sanders becomes the storyline, and Cleveland becomes the epicenter of NFL speculation. But preseason doesn't prove anything long-term. It only hints at what could be. The key difference? Who's guiding that progression? Quarterbacks are projects until they're proven. Without the right coaching, that learning curve turns into a cliff. That's why the Harbaugh pursuit matters so much. It's not just about the moment. It's about protecting the investment. The Browns aren't chasing headlines. They're chasing stability. And if Sanders shows any signs of command in preseason, the pressure to support that development with real infrastructure becomes impossible to ignore. No more hoping talent overcomes dysfunction. The plan has to be airtight. The more you watch Sanders, the more you see why this franchise is circling him. His college tape shows confidence, vision, and mechanics that translate. But it also shows areas that need refinement. Timing, Footwork. Processing speed under pressure. Those traits don't just evolve through reps, they evolve through coaching. This is where Harbaugh's value becomes obvious. He's not just a motivator. He's a technician. He tailors his offense to fit the quarterback's comfort zone and then expands it over time. He did it with Flacco. He radically restructured his approach for Lamar. He doesn't treat every quarterback the same because he knows development isn't one size fits all. For Sanders, being coached by someone with that adaptability could mean the difference between promise and performance. It's not about raw skill. It's about extracting every ounce of it in a system that maximizes what he does well and sharpens what he doesn't. Behind the scenes, this isn't a simple negotiation. It's a campaign. Haslam knows what's at stake, and bringing in Harbaugh would take more than just cash. It would take vision. It would take alignment. Everyone from the GM to the scouting department to the quarterback coach would need to get on board. The hire would impact every corner of the organization. This is the kind of decision that either stabilizes a franchise or fractures it, depending on how it's handled. And the Browns have had enough fractures. If they move forward with this, they need to be all in. No half measures. No backdoor power struggles. Harbaugh wouldn't come to Cleveland to fit into an existing mold. He'd come to reshape it. That means Haslam has to not only offer money, but also control, authority, the ability to make real change. Because that's the only way Harbaugh has ever operated, and it's the only way this move actually works. Harbaugh's face on a Brown sideline would look surreal to fans who spent years watching him break their hearts from across the field. But that shock would quickly turn into anticipation. Because no matter how weird it looks at first, what matters is what follows. Winning changes everything. If Harbaugh arrives and the Browns start stringing together real, meaningful wins, not fluke streaks, but methodical, identity-driven football, the entire atmosphere changes. The narrative of dysfunction evaporates. The punchline jokes stop. The focus shifts from when will it collapse to how far can they go. That's the power of a coach who's done it before. He doesn't sell hope. He installs belief. And that's exactly what this franchise has been missing. Not talent, not desire, but belief that a system exists to turn potential into progress. If Cleveland is finally ready to make that leap, the moment is now. Shedeur Sanders hasn't said much publicly about the rumors, but he doesn't have to. The connection is clear. He's the quarterback prospect everyone knows Cleveland is circling, and if the Harbaugh deal happens, their futures become tied together instantly. A move like this locks in a narrative before either of them takes the field. This is the duo the Browns are betting it all on. And with that comes pressure. Fans won't wait 5 years to see if it pans out. That's the harsh truth of football in a city like Cleveland. Hope fades fast when the team starts slow. But pairing Sanders with a coach like Harbaugh gives the entire organization a buffer. People trust Harbaugh's process. They give it time. They know he builds. That's what makes this so important for Sanders. He wouldn't have to play hero ball every Sunday. He'd be in a system that protects him, challenges him, and grows with him. That's how quarterbacks succeed in the NFL. Not by being asked to save the franchise, but by being given a franchise that's finally ready to save itself. There's no margin for error on this one. Jimmy Haslam's track record already has enough volatility to make fans nervous. But if there's one thing the Watson deal showed, it's that Haslam will swing big if he believes the upside is there. Now he's facing another pivotal moment, except this time, the risk is tied to leadership, not scandal. A $200 million offer is more than a number. It's a statement about vision. It says the Browns are done recycling ideas that never worked. It says they're ready to match the ambition of their fan base. And more importantly, it signals they're willing to prioritize coaching infrastructure over short-term gimmicks. But to make it work, Haslam has to step back. That's what separates the smart owners from the restless ones. If he lands Harbaugh, he needs to let Harbaugh lead. The decisions, the staffing, the culture, it all has to be aligned. Because no coach signs a contract that size to be micromanaged. He signs it to take control. The day Shedeur Sanders steps behind a podium in Cleveland, the story will write itself. The cameras, The comparisons. The legacy talk. The ghost of failed quarterbacks past. It'll all be there. But the difference this time is what's standing next to him. If it's Harbaugh, that's the piece that changes everything. Sanders wouldn't be walking into dysfunction masked as optimism. He'd be joining a project that has a clear blueprint. And fans would see that too. They'd understand the difference between another swing and a legitimate foundation. It's hard to understate what that kind of introduction would mean for morale. A quarterback prospect and a championship coach arriving together? That's not just a restart. That's a rebrand. Suddenly, Cleveland is no longer defined by its search. It's defined by its plan. Harbaugh isn't going to fix everything overnight. No coach does. But he brings a gravity that shifts expectations. The Browns wouldn't be hoping to make the playoffs. They'd be expected to. His presence alone would upgrade the franchise's reputation across the league. Players want to play for proven winners. Agents know the system is solid. Assistants want to coach under someone who builds careers. It's a ripple effect. And Cleveland desperately needs one. For too long, the Browns have operated like a team begging to be taken seriously. Harbaugh's hire would flip that dynamic. Suddenly, it's Cleveland setting the standard, not chasing it. That's the value of experience in this league. It's not just about X's and O's. It's about walking into a building and instantly raising the floor. Even if things take time to click, the baseline is competence. And for a team that's seen everything, but that alone would be transformational. There's something poetic about Harbaugh potentially coaching his first Browns game against the very team that let him go. The Ravens have defined stability in the AFC North. They've been the measuring stick. For years, the Browns have been stuck trying to catch them, trying to match their discipline, their culture, their vision. Now, Cleveland has a chance to take the architect of that stability and make him their own. That's more than revenge. That's strategy. It's knowing that sometimes the best way to close the gap is to hire the person who built it. A Browns-Ravens matchup under these circumstances wouldn't just be about bragging rights. It would be about ownership. Ownership of identity. Ownership of a narrative that for too long has been dictated by other teams. Cleveland has the chance to take control, not just of a game, but of an era. If you're still watching, now's the time to hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more stories that pull back the curtain on the NFL's biggest power plays, bold moves, and franchise-defining moments.